welcome to a new video. I've not filmed a video in so long. I'm filming a video today, the best 23 books I have read in 2023. I have read so many good books. There are definitely like top 10 I've read, but I don't think there were 23 that I read that were like, yes, each and every single one of these are great. I don't know if I'm making sense. These are mostly my 5-star reads from the year, so I've picked out 23 books that I think were pretty great. This is in no particular order. I'm not talking about the best books. I'm just talking chronologically. So the books I read at the beginning of the year and then the last ones would be at the end. The first book is The Cheat Sheet, and this is a romance novel by Sarah Adams, and it was my first book by this author. It was this book. I've probably talked about this already. It was a book I did not want to read. It took me forever to convince myself to read it. Don't know what was putting me off. I think it was a sports romance. That's not my vibe. But it ended up being one of my all-time favourite novels and a book that I would definitely be returning to. And it's just, I loved everything about it. This is the type of YA novels that It felt like a YA novel because it had no spice in it, and it holds a special place in my heart, and I absolutely loved it. The second book was The Bodyguard by Catherine Center, another new favourite author. Again, a beautiful romance novel that I don't actually remember how I came across this book. I know it was before it got a little bit more popular, but I have no memory of how I came across it, and because I was thinking recently, like, you know the moment when you pick up a book that no one's talking about and it ends up being the best book you've ever read? I want more books like that, and I'm trying to remember how I came across this book, and I can't. This book, the cover is stunning, beautiful. It's a enemies to lovers kind of fake dating. Well, not really enemies. She's a bodyguard for this celebrity. It was so much more than I expected it would be. Like, I thought, oh, a bodyguard, it sounds boring, but it wasn't. The writing was beautiful. There was a twist at the end, which I've noticed Catherine Center, I think she does this in her books, and I loved it. This was such an experience reading this book, and again, it holds a special place in my heart, and I will definitely be rereading it. Next book is a mystery thriller, and it's Daisy Darker. I talked about this book in a vlog. This is a kind of closed door, I don't remember the name, but something like that, a mystery novel. A story that takes place in this, the fact that I don't remember, I think it's in Ireland. It's this fancy house, beautiful house, villa that the grandmother owns, and she kind of announces that she wants to pass on her will to her grandchildren, and there's a lot of them, and one by one things start happening. People start going missing or getting, we don't know what happens. You're just reading, not knowing what is happening. It's a quick, fast-paced novel, and the ending was so shocking to me. I've never read anything like this. I'll definitely reread it once some time has passed and I forget what happened. And I read another thriller, because this was again for a vlog, and it was Then She Was Gone, and this is another mind-blowing novel. Just like, I wasn't expecting a lot, not gonna lie. I just went into this thinking it's a kidnapping story, okay, but the journey here mattered, and just this book was so good. See, you find out exactly what happened. It's quite gruesome. I cried. The ending made me cry. This book just again, another book I want to reread at some point, and a book that I wish I could read again for the first time, because it was a journey and just such a good book. You know when a book is good when you are speechless and you don't know how to explain it? This is one of those. Then I returned to the romances, and I read Bringing Down the Duke. This is a Regency romance, historical romance, that takes place in sometime in the past in London, in Oxford, and the main character has to bring down the Duke. She's like working against him. It's quite complicated, the plot, so I'm not going to try explain it. It's just the romance in this was something I've never read before, and I need a physical copy. Again, another book I want to reread. It brought tears to my eyes. It made me smile. It made me feel fuzzy. Like, you know, all those sweet things when you're reading a romance novel. Like, this is what I want from the books I read. Such a good book. And I know there's like a series, so I've got the series. I should probably read it in 2024 and just read more books like this. And then another one that I read from the genre was To Have and to Hoax. I never know if I'm saying it right. This was another Regency romance, and this was the main couple here. They were married 4 years ago. Like, it was arranged marriage, and they've kind of drifted away from each other. They don't really like each other anymore. They like plot against each other, as in the female character, she's pretending to be ill so that her husband, can like focus on her, but he's also like plotting, from what I remember, and it's just like so mischievous, this book. The plot is something I've never read before. It's so fun, engaging, and the romance is just written so beautifully that, again, this is part of a series that I aim to read, and I think it just will hold a special place in my heart. It's such a good series, so underrated. Okay, then I read The Two Lives of Lydia Bird, and this is a bit of a sadder novel. So the main character's fiance passes away before like their wedding. This book is really, it's heavy. It focuses on grief. It talks about death. So not a book for everyone, but I just thought it was so beautifully written, and I enjoyed the story, the characters. Yes, there were moments that annoyed me, won't go into detail, but it was a wonderful novel, and just, again, it was like a break from what the stuff that I usually read, and I've kind of drifted away from reading sadder novels. That used to be what I read a lot, like YA, mental health being the main topic. Like, that is what I used to read as a teenager, and I've kind of distanced myself from books with sad themes. But this was beautiful, and again, I think it's a book that is underrated. The next novel I read was The Do-Over by Lynn Painter, another new favourite, and this is book number 9 on the list. This is a beautiful novel. It's the type of novel, what's it called, where you go back in time. She has to redo the day, Valentine's Day, a couple times before she gets it right. And this book was just a beautiful experience. It was so sweet. Lynn Painter's writing is beautiful. I have found a new YA favourite author, because I feel like YA romances haven't been that good recently, and Lynn Painter has saved the day. Want to read more of Lynn Painter's novels? The Do-Over was beautiful, definitely worth the hype, and I think it's another novel I might return to from time to time when I'm looking for a comfort novel, comfort story. Then I read Practice Makes Perfect, which was released this year, I believe, by Sarah Adams, and this is actually part of the series with When in Rome, which was another book I read that I'll get to. Practice Makes Perfect is a romance novel in a small town setting. The main character is a shy, quiet character, and like goes on pretend dates with this other male character, and it's just a sweet romance novel. What else can I say? The small town vibes are beautiful. There was something I did not like, which was how kind of main character felt like she changed completely at the end. Like, all throughout the book she was like this nice, quiet person, and then towards the end she was, but she wasn't. And like, I have my own personal opinions on this. I won't go into detail. There was just that I didn't like. I wish it was maybe just done a little bit differently, because like, I understand that like someone can change and maybe that's not who she really was, but I just felt strange. And then a book that might be quite random, but it's on here. It is The Secret Life of Bees, and I read this. It's a small fiction contemporary novel. I don't know how to explain it. It's like it makes me think of Anne with an E. It's a beautiful, sad, heartbreaking story that takes place in the past in America, and it holds a place in my heart. It mentions the Black Madonna, which is to do with the Catholic faith, and just reading about that just was wonderful, and the whole story, the way it was written. It's a book I definitely want in my home library. I haven't ordered it just yet, but it's a beautiful story, and it was beautiful reading it. And I'm sure that I'll be returning to it. And there's also a movie which I have not seen. So I read The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, and this book was just, oh, I love it so much. I think it had everything that I like in a mystery thriller novel. It was set in a summer camp, and many years ago something happened. 2 girls went missing, or well, they don't know what happened to them. Many years later, this main character who survived everything, she's trying to move on. She's invited to this summer camp because they are reopening it. And so she is reluctant to agree, but she agrees to it. And then weird things start happening again at this camp. And it's just it's full of so many twists and turns. And I love that in thriller and mystery novels, that I just had no idea I just could not predict what was going to happen in this novel, and I love that. I read When in Rome, which I've already mentioned. The story was a romance novel between a pop star and this grumpy male character. Her car breaks down and she ends up like crashing at his place. So they're from 2 different worlds, and yeah, it's a very sweet romance novel. I did enjoy it. Looking back, I think I preferred the Practice Makes Perfect to this one, but it was still a very sweet novel and I enjoyed it. This was another thriller. This was Home Before Dark, another Riley Sager novel. This book was it was great. It was about a haunted house, which when I read that, I thought, no, I stay away from books like that. It's just not my vibe. But the writing was so captivating. It was so beautiful. The mood, the atmosphere of this novel was just beautiful. And the ending was completely shocking. Again, as usual, that's how Riley Sager writes. That's what to be expected, and I was not disappointed. It was such a journey reading this novel. I definitely would reread it again, even though I kind of knew what happened. It was so good, and I wish I could read it again for the first time. Next was Happy Place, which was, I think, the book of the summer this year, by Emily Henry. And I'm kind of with Emily Henry, I'm either gonna love it or I'm gonna hate it. That has been a pattern with the 4 books I read by her, but this one was that I love it. And the cover is so fun, so playful. The story so beautiful, nostalgic and sad, but happy at the same time. It's about a group of friends who are staying at their favorite vacation home, summer cabin, summer house in the Hamptons, I believe, and it's their last summer there because the house is being sold. And the main character has broken up with her ex-boyfriend, but no one knows, and he's invited and everyone thinks they're still together, and they're kind of like fake dating but also just figuring things out, and they end up together again. And just the atmosphere was beautiful. I also need a physical copy of this book so I can annotate it and return to it, because it feels like a comfort read to me, and it holds a place in my heart. It was beautiful. And I read Dead Romantics, which then I read, why am I saying that? I should be saying the next book on the list is The Dead Romantics. And this was another book I kept putting off and thinking, am I going to read it? I don't know, I've heard so many good things about it. And I read it and I was not disappointed. It was definitely something I've never read before. It's about this main character who can see ghosts, like souls who have passed away, and she helps them. And I found that interesting to read about. She falls in love with someone who has died. This, like, don't try to understand it. If you're gonna read this book, don't try to understand it, just enjoy it, because I can't understand it, but it was magical realism. It was beautiful. Like, the atmosphere of this book as well, so strange. I've never read anything like it. This is definitely a unique book, and the cover is stunning. So beautiful. This book it holds a place in my heart, and I really want to read The 7-Year Slip. I keep getting the name of the book wrong. That's another book I want to read by this author, and I think that this is another new author favorite of mine. Hello Stranger is next on the list, and this is kind of a 4.5 for me. Like, it doesn't compare to The Bodyguard. It's by Catherine Center. The cover stunning, the story so unique. It's about this woman who gets face blindness just like randomly. Her mother died of a condition like similar, I don't remember now, and she's an artist. And I just love that there are no coincidences in this book, and at the end it all comes together, and I just thought, beautiful. Like, maybe this is a 5-star read because it was beautiful. You also learn quite a lot about face blindness, which I thought was interesting. And I was just like, I liked every aspect of this book really. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much, but I did. And the romance is very, very slow burn, but it was the journey that mattered here, and it was beautiful. This book that is here, no, this one, The Inheritance Games. I've got the second book already. I finally read The Inheritance Games. This was another novel that I kept putting off and thinking, I'm not going to read it. It doesn't look interesting. I don't know why. I think I misread the blurb, or I got this book confused with a different one, because this book is everything that I love. Like, it's a YA mystery novel about this girl that inherits billions of money, and she's living in this house of this billionaire who passed away, and there are all these brothers that don't like her, and they're trying to figure out how did she get this money, and there are all these clues and puzzles that they have to solve, and I loved it. It was such a journey reading this, and I'm gonna read the whole series in the new year, I hope. And this is becoming a TV adaptation, I believe, so I cannot wait. I'm so excited. Next book on this list I think would be Check and Mate, which was my anticipated read of this year when I first heard about it, by Ali Hazelwood. This is her first YA novel, and I loved everything about this book. Chess, I'm obsessed. I learned how to play chess, and I watched The Queen's Gambit, so I want anything and everything like this novel. Give me another book like this, please. It was beautiful. The story, Mallory, she is struggling with a lot in her family, and she said she's given up chess forever, but chess makes its way back into her life, and she's competing and playing against and playing with the #1 champion in the world, and they have a love story in this novel. I think the love part is quite slow burn. There's a lot about her family, which I personally really enjoyed. This is a YA novel. I just feel like it's not for all ages, which is my one problem with this book, because like, it is a YA novel. It's closed door, nothing like that. But there are some moments that I just felt like didn't need to be included here. Like, it didn't feel like a typical YA novel that you might read. It felt more like, I don't know, if there was a genre between YA and new adult, it would be in between. So that's my only downside, but this is a wonderful book, and I'm sure I'll return to it at some point. The next 3 books are kind of just on this list, but they're like not my top books. So number 20 is The Love Hypothesis. Now, I have mixed feelings about this, because I remember reading it and being so obsessed and in love with the story, but now, like, looking back, it's not that memorable to me, and like, I feel like I would know if it was a 5-star read, that I would like remember it so well, but I don't, and I don't know what happened. Maybe I should reread it at one point. It's by Ali Hazelwood, and it's about this Olive, about this main character called Olive, who is studying medicine, I don't remember now, something like that, biomedicine, genetics, and she like fake dates a professor, and I do remember I did not like the age gap in this, so I feel like this is more like a 4-star looking back, but it was a good novel, and I do remember feeling happy after reading it. So I don't know, mixed thoughts about this one, but it is on this list. The last book would be American Roommate Experiment. Now, I feel like this was a 5-star, definitely. It's just less memorable to me because I read it at the beginning of the year, but this was I think YA romance, not sure about the YA part, but it was about this main character who is living in New York. She's writing a novel, and she's run out of ideas for like romance novels, having trouble writing it. She's in a writer's block, and we have this the male character who is someone she had a crush on. He's a family friend of her friends. He's the cousin of her best friend, and he ends up crashing where she's staying, which is at her cousin's or her friend's place. It's quite complicated, but ultimately what happens is they end up going on these fake dates because he wants to help her beat the writer's block, and then obviously she has a crush on him. I think this is a dual POV as well, which was great. I remember feeling really happy while reading this, and it was a cute romance, and like it's not a slow burn, it's quite, there's sweet moments here and there. So I don't remember what my problem was with this book. I feel like I'd have to reread it, but it's definitely on this list, and it's a book that I do remember seeing everywhere and thinking, oh, I want to give it a go. The cover's also really nice. Then the last book is, now I do have a book written down here, and I realised that a different book should have been in its place, so I'm going to say the other book. One of the very first books I read, and it is the Davenports or the Davenports, I still don't know how to pronounce it. It's a new series of YA Regency romance, and it's basically like Bridgerton. And when I read it, it was such a journey, and this is a little bit different to Bridgerton, of course, because it takes place many years ago. It was during the time when Black Americans were treated unfairly, and this is a Black family that is very wealthy, so the view that they have is different. Like the characters in this novel, the girls, the daughters, they are shielded from the reality, and it's told in different point of views because they're different characters, like different sisters, and there are all romance parts in this. So this was it just felt like Bridgerton. So if you enjoyed that series, the TV show, or Queen, what was it called? Queen, yeah, the spin-off, then this is a book for you, and I can't believe I forgot about it. This was a good novel. That would be all 23 books that I read that I absolutely loved and would 1,000,000% recommend. My top books of the year. So happy I read these books, and I just hope 2024 will be filled with many other great books. I will also be doing a 24 books I want to read in 2024, but you might have to wait a little bit for that video because I'm not fully returning to making videos like I was in the past. I'm just gonna upload whenever I can. It may be 1 video a month, might be 2 a month, I don't know. But thank you for watching this video. Follow me on my Bookstagram. I post more on there than on here.